Well, welcome. We are excited to have Stacy Bateman with us. She is a candidate for the Aspen Peak School Board Seat 2 in Lehi. And Stacy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
You bet. We're going to start off with some questions. We got 15 questions here from readers of the Lehi Free Press and the American Fork Citizen, and love to get some of your thoughts and responses. Just for the people watching, Stacey will have 1 minute to be able to answer the questions, and we'll try to move on from there. So, you ready to get started, Stacy?
Ready.
All righty. The first question is, what professional backgrounds and skill sets do you believe are the most valuable for the school board members to bring to effectively govern our new school district?
So, one of the most important things right now, I'm the only current Alpine school board member running for the Central District. So, I've been serving in this capacity for almost 5 years. I also have a master's degree in education administration. That gives me a great technical side to understand the components of this job. I would say some of the other things that are incredibly important are being able to listen, dialogue. My constituents are represent a variety of people and beliefs, and so trying to make sure that we're all having conversations so that when we are either creating or amending policy, that we're covering the people that we represent, and also just fostering relationships with everybody, whether it's constituents or other elected officials. So much of what we're able to do are because of the great relationships that we have with Lehigh City and some others.
Great. Next question is, what was your position on the proposed tax increment increase to fund facilities and capital expenditures with Alpine School District? And how would you evaluate future tax policy decisions?
So I was supportive of the increment that we did this year, which was a net one. So each year, when we look at considering if we're going to pursue truth in taxation, we look at the bonds that are rolling off and what we have in our budget process, which is broken down between capital needs as well as our operations. Being on the finance committee for the last several years, I can say that every single request that comes through to the final process really should be funded. We don't have the money to do all of those things. So we look at what we absolutely need to do and what that impact is to taxpayers. So in Lehi, we are years behind in getting the Cold Springs Elementary School built. That was a part of my reason for supporting this is we've tried to move over the last couple of years away from putting everything through bonds and can we start saving so that we can pay for things up front. So not all projects are able to do that, but that was a big part of the reason was for that school. And then we also need to start addressing some of our seismic needs.
Okay. Next question is, what do you see as the most critical operational gaps that need to be addressed as we separate from Alpine School District, and how should we prioritize filling them?
I would say special education is our primary need. We are critically underfunded there. Our teachers have caseloads that are way too high for any one human to handle. So we have been having conversations about this for years, and it is really time to prioritize it and make it happen. And that I should clarify that that encompasses our students, all students with an IEP, as well as our special classes. I would very much love to see the special classes move towards all students being together in class. And that's going to take funding to bring in additional people and other resources. And then the second thing I would say is just our overall class size. I like to start with a targeted class size reduction. So we have some classes in schools that are larger than others. So bringing those down to the ratio, a better ratio, or the ratio we have, and then adjusting our ratios across the board to bring those lower.
Okay. Next question is, sorry, let me start that over. How would you approach creating Aspen Peak's inaugural budget, and what factors should guide our financial planning process?
Oh, I love this. So with our inaugural budget, like I said earlier, if we can do targeted class size reduction right off the board, that's going to bring instant relief to the areas who need it most. I also think we need to do a reassessment of all our current programs. Some things are, they're self-sustaining and they're going well. Some are not. And so we need to take a hard look at where we really want to focus the funding and what the best outcomes for students are.
Okay. Next question we have is, how would you evaluate tax incentives and requests from development agencies, and what criteria should guide these decisions?
So I think one of the important things to know is that we are not always the only group at the table, the school board. And so when you're having conversations, there are some things that personally I am not a huge fan of, but we have two choices at that point. So we can either say I'm not supportive of this deal and walk away with nothing, or we can start having conversations. It looks like this is going to pass. So what can we negotiate for our students that will be a benefit to them? Some of the criteria for me personally, I'm not interested in retail. Retail comes in, they'll find their base. We don't need to do that. But we have some other really great partners, for instance, TI and Meta right now that have been able to do bring in incredible things for our students. And so just making sure, I think Aspen Peaks will need, as a board, will need to sit down and say, what are the criteria we're interested in exploring? For instance, sometimes we bring in, I really like data farms in the West, but after you've got a certain number in, we don't need to incentivize anymore. So it will be important for us to have a set criteria of a board that we will evaluate things through.
Okay. Next question is, how would you approach establishing district policies for Aspen Peaks? Adopting existing frameworks or developing new ones? And what should guide this process?
So I think anytime we can start with an existing base, that definitely kind of makes the process a little easier and speeds it along a little. We've had a lot of conversations over the years. Our current policy team has worked hard, but we have, in my opinion, too many policies and some that haven't been evaluated in quite a few years. In fact, we have policies that are older than I am. So some things I think it won't make sense to retire them. Other things we will need to create for specifically for Aspen Peaks. And really, what's important through this is that we're talking with our employees, talking with parents, and talking with our district leaders to see which policies are most impactful and we use most often, and which ones that are we can easily eliminate.
Okay. Next question is, what approach should the district take in establishing relationships with employee unions and negotiating collective bargaining agreements?
Well, I guess a lot of this will depend on if the referendum for HB 267 passes. Regardless of that outcome, I don't see a change in conversations. Our association, our teachers association, are great partners. And so we have conversations all year long, not just at the negotiations time. So if we can no longer engage the way we currently do, then we just shift the way we have conversations. And then obviously more of those conversations would become internal in terms of what we're actually going to offer instead of the kind of more formal process. But either way, we want to make sure that we are representing all of our teachers and the things that we are offering. And so I think as long as we keep communication lines open, then we'll be able to navigate that successfully.
Okay. Next question is, how should Aspen Peak School District engage with state legislators and position itself on education related legislation?
So right now we meet with our legislators formally a couple of times a year. I would say that the conversations we have outside of the legislative session are some of the best conversations, the most important ones that we have. Once the session is running, things are off and they go quick. So for the legislators that work represent the area that I work with, we are in regular conversation. I know that I can shoot a quick text about something that's coming up, or set a time to talk if we need to have a longer conversation. And I will say they are pretty good about reaching out to understand how a specific bill impacts us directly. So I think we just keep those conversations that we have, keep them going. And then we make sure that they understand from our perspective what that impact is, as well as explaining their position on things that they're supporting or not supporting.
Okay. Next question. How would you balance educators' professional autonomy with community standards regarding classrooms, displays, and teaching materials?
So right now that is all dictated in code. And so we have additional guidance as a district, which I think would be smart for Aspen Peaks to do. But it's pretty clearly outlined in code. And so teachers understand, what that expectation is, and we continue to support that. Sometimes we have parents that reach out and they maybe don't like a certain thing. And then we just have a conversation. So sometimes their concerns are answered in the code. Sometimes they offer an additional perspective for consideration, and then staff can move on from that and decide if it's something they want to alter in their classroom, if they can alter it, or not.
Okay. Next question is, how should the district handle parent concerns about instructional materials and library resources while maintaining educational quality?
So one of the things I really like right now is that we have a process. Like if there's a specific book that somebody wants to challenge, then they can go through that process, and there is a group that comes together with their criteria to review it. Really, a lot of things are already determined either through the state standards through the Utah State Board of Education or through the Bright Line rule that's in state code. And so a lot of people that reach out don't really know what their options are. So I spend a lot of time educating on what exactly the process is or what the law says and how we go from there. And it's opened up really just great dialogue with constituents as well as teachers. I tend to hear from people who don't have kids in school anymore, and I really love that they're engaged in that way, that they want to know how that goes. And so again, just educating on what is already done, what we do have control of, and the things we can change and how we change them.
Okay. Next question is what approach should the district take regarding health education curriculum and materials selection?
So definitely a committee that ensures that we are in line with what's been set through the state standards, and then also having approved vendors. I know sometimes we'll have like individual schools that have a relationship with somebody and they want to bring them in, but I think it's important to have a clear process so that we make sure that the people who are approved to do, like for instance, the maturation presentation, that they've been vetted, there's material has been vetted. And then in terms of like our secondary classes, that's all outlined in state standards. So,
Okay. Next question we have is what role should civic education and constitutional studies play in our curriculum, and how can we best prepare students for citizenship?
I love this. Our high school Gov Sit teachers do a fantastic job. They're Skyridge this year. Their teachers have kind of changed up what they do. And so I've had usually every year I will have students that reach out that want to do an interview or talk about a specific issue. This year they've been encouraged. They either attend a city council meeting, a school board meeting, the city library board meeting, and I have been so impressed with the questions that the kids come with and their insight. And I think it's so important that they understand before they leave high school the various ways that they can engage either with school board or city council or other elected officials, because when they know who their representatives are and how to reach out to them, then we're more likely to hear from them when there are challenges. And there are students who I first met years ago who still live locally and will reach out and share their perspective. And I value that because kids spend the most of their day in our schools, and so they should definitely be able to have input on the things that impact them the most.
Okay. Next question is how would you approach decisions about graduation requirements and academic standards to best serve our students' college and career readiness?
So one of the things that we did change recently in Alpine School District is there's a reduced credit diploma that students can do that keeps their local school name on it. And I really supported this change because we have students that for various reasons, whether they need to work to support their family or do some other things, that they can't get that full 28 credit diploma. And so we're also able to help get kids into MTech so that when they graduate from their high school, they're also graduating with an additional certification. So starting, our counselors do a great job early on of helping students and parents understand what those different options are. And I love when kids leave us, if they're not going to be attending a traditional four-year college, that they have another plan and way to do it. I would very much love in the new Aspen Peaks district to get our tech school off the ground and give kids another option and ways to develop their skill set before they leave high school. So that will be a priority for me.
Okay. Next question. How should the district respond to state policies regarding charter schools and school choice programs that may impact enrollment and funding?
So right now we've got the Utah Fits All Scholarship, and the legislature has tightened up what the program initially started from, which I think is great. In terms of charter school offerings, I mean, I love it. Right now, there's never been this much choice in education for parents to decide for their students, and so we definitely work together. And there's some things charters do that we don't impact, right? But we have conversations to make sure that parents understand the differences and when they're switching between schools. In terms of some of the different scholarships and things, it's a challenge when we represent or we educate students that are in brick and mortar buildings, and then we receive less money than a student who's maybe on the Fits All scholarship. And so I'll just continue to advocate for making sure that that everybody's considering both the capital and the infrastructure things that we also have to cover so that we can ensure that all students are getting a great education.
Okay. And second to last question, what role should trade skills and technical education play in our district's offerings, and how would you expand these opportunities?
Oh, again, the tech school. We have a property out on 2100 that is sitting there and it is ready. It's not quite large enough for a traditional high school, which makes it a great piece of land for the tech school. We already have a great relationship with MTech. I'd really love to expand it. One of the things that MTech does is not to replace anything going on in the high schools, but to complement them. And so one of the things we see particularly in Lehi is that we have a large number of students who would very much love to be at MTech, but there aren't enough spots. So I think anything we can do to increase those programs is going to help. The other thing, a couple of years ago, the legislature did a Grow Your Own Teacher program. It's phenomenal. I'd love to see Grow Your Own Fire or Police or some of the other health careers. We've got a fire station, police station right here in Lehi that we have a lot of students that, they go, they get their training, they want to stay in Lehi. So if we can do anything we can do to speed that along and help them to stay while they're in school, I think is a great thing for our community.
All right. And the last question is up to you. 1 minute of whatever you'd like to say to voters.
Okay. I am in this. This is a personal thing for me. I've known so many of our students for years and our educators for years. I've been in classrooms. I've seen the difference that great educators can make in the lives of students. So whether we have students coming in with full support and they are on track academically, or students that need a little more help and intervention, I know that when educators have what they need and administrators have what they need to help them, it changes the trajectory of their lives. So being part of Aspen Peaks for me is taking the things that I have learned and I have seen over the last 13 years in Lehi and across the greater Alpine School District, and really kind of bringing things in and focusing on the best ways to be student-centered and to get those best outcomes. So I would very much appreciate to have your voice and your vote, and feel free to reach out, send an email, or give me a call. I'm happy to discuss anything further.
Awesome. Well, Stacy, thank you so much for taking time. No, it's not easy being a candidate, putting yourself out there and jumping onto a Zoom call to answer 15 questions in 15 minutes. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Rob.
All right.